Racing fans, looking ahead to today's sixth race, I call your attention to number 2, 1 Ace. There will be no overweight. Previously announced.
So good afternoon, racing fans. Welcome to Hawthorne Racecourse for a Sunday afternoon of thoroughbred action. Jim Miller and Emily Gullikson down here in the PointsBet Sportsbook. Emily, we just found out something awesome, and you made a very good reference. Derek Menke, our man who his whole job was to count us in, was like a WWE referee there. He got down to 2.5 and then stopped, and then held it. He didn't count the pin. There was the kick out. So the rock bottom didn't work. They're going to have to go back. You're going to have to find a tombstone. You're going to have to come with something there, because then they came back, and then he was able to recover. So kudos to Derek. That was some impressive work in his counting skills today.
Now he's going to have to work a quick 5 furlong breeze to get over to the tower.
And I wonder. I mean, so I guess here's the question: Do you count the rungs of the ladder, Derek, when you're going up too? No, not recently. I mean, you haven't memorized after a while. So, exactly. I mean, and that's the cool thing about this guy. Does everything. Our TV crew is awesome here at Hawthorne.
Incredible.
But here's the thing. So Derek's working the setup here, counting us in, head into the tower. As it gets nicer out throughout the course of the year, he's going to be the guy running around on the turf course with the camera on his shoulder. He'll be at the starting gate. He'll be everywhere. So he is. He's awesome. We had our number one man, our referee, our WWE guy down here counting us in to kick off the show. What a great way to start a Sunday, huh?
Absolutely, and coming off a good weekend of racing as well, and our card stacks up as strong today. Every race, 8 races, very solid sequence.
Yeah, very solid racing. We have 3 on the turf today. It's gorgeous outside. We have a fast main track, a firm turf course today. It's early in the season, and it's hard because we're kind of trying to figure out the turf course and how to use it and that kind of stuff, because typically we're not racing during the summer here at Hawthorne. So when you're going over the fall, it's just basically about 8 weeks on the turf. Now you're looking at 4 months, so you have to kind of space them out. That's why you see a race as the opener, a race as the 5th, a race as the 8th, because our crew needs time to walk the course throughout the course of the day too. But it's nice when you have the ability to card 3 turf, and then the weather works out this way also.
Oh gosh, it's so nice outside, and yeah, I'm sure the horses, the people, I was out there earlier, it's gorgeous. I'll be out there throughout the card as well.
Kudos to you on Thursday, because Modifier ran a great race on the grass. You said, hey, let's skip the 4th, let's go to the 5th for the turf race. You picked the right race, because this is a horse on Olaf Hernandez kind of had to duck and dive a little bit, and he was picking the right spot each time. It's like he'd pick a hole, and then it would get shut off, pick another hole. But then when he got this horse rolling, the horse came flying, was bet down early, and then kind of inched back up. That was a pretty good return, too.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Got bet down again from that 21 morning line, which again I think was valid because it was a horse that was trying the turf the first time. But reading between the lines, it was the intention where they were looking for the turf for this horse, ran at a time with the end of the season last year, been racing the horse into shape, and as you mentioned, excellent ride under Olaf Hernandez.
Yeah, excellent ride for sure. All right, 3 turf races today, a really good card, as Emily mentioned, so let's go through it again. Fast main track. Firm turf course. We kick things off on the grass on the opener. We go 1 mile and a 16th on the firm turf. $10,000 claimers to start the day. Scratch all the also. So you get a field of 10 in this spot, Emily, and you can look so many different ways in the opener. We all know Sierra Hotel is going to take a lot of action because the horse is ultra consistent, always tries hard. Currently sitting at 7-2 on the board right now, so not that heavy a favorite. I know you gave a little bit of a look to the 7 Dyna Blue in here, and this is a horse that has had past turf success and probably happy to get back on the grass after a few dirt starts here in between turf tries.
That was sort of the angle. It's a horse that looks like he wants to get back on the turf. As you mentioned, has that back turf form, and a horse that has some recency coming in from the dirt starts this year. So seems like the time and place, they have this horse ready. They picked this spot to get back on the grass. Should fire a big shot, but as you mentioned, this race is super competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to start with Sierra Hotel. I expect the odds will probably drop down a little bit, even though they are the current 7-2 favorite of this race, just based on some back form, but does have to step up, doesn't really seem to have a strong edge in this race. And as you mentioned, there's just a lot of ways to go in here. Maligator, another one coming off the layoff, has some strong figures, currently taking money at that currently 5-1, but also taking some money in the exactas. And then another long shot horse I gave a look to, number 2, Bourbon Delight, a horse that's going to be stepping up in class off a win, but one of those horses that just doesn't have a lot of turf form, but from a physical standpoint, looks like a turf horse, so just one that could just find himself at home on the turf. Did you get yourself adjusted?
Well, I can tell you this, Derek's fired now. We thought he was going to be the guy for down here for the set. I hope he's listening to it walking over the tower, because my mic was upside down.
Oh.
So here's the thing, you could still hear me. It was just, maybe they didn't want to hear me. It was a little lighter there, but now it's better. And you know why? Because Jason came running down from the studio. This is a man that is ultra athletic. I'll tell you, he's in between watching the PGA Championship, hoping that he would be playing on the tour. But I give him kudos for running down there too. Yeah, Bourbon Delight could be the price play of the race. You're looking at that one at 20-1 on the board right now. The 4, Back in Naco, is a horse that I'm curious to see back on the turf. A little bit of turf form there, and it's funny because you're looking, the last time the horse was on the grass was at the Meadowlands, so it's one of those things where it's not one of those normal turf circuits you see, but that's a horse that ran okay in the past with so many different ways to go in race number 1. So see what you can do, find a little bit of value. Great way to kick off the card, the 12% takeout and win play show, 15% takeout on the pick 5. Nice way to start the day's racing. Race number 2 today, $5,000 claimer Ziggo, 1 mile and 70 yards, 50 cent early, pick 4 wagering in here, 15% takeout on the pick 4 as well. Emily, you and I kind of thought similarly in this race, I think. There really wasn't anything pace-wise in this spot. I think the 3, Behaving Myself, is the one that cruises along on the front end. I gave a little bit of a shot to the 4, Not Very Gentle. I think they have to get into the race a little bit more early on, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Behaving Myself looks like they should be the controlling speed in here, and should be the controlling speed. The question is just that finishing ability, because he does tend to run out of gas late. And if you're looking at the optics plot at home, you can see that big circle, and that's what it represents. So the horse that's the closest to him looking at the plot is that number 4, Not Very Gentle, who's going to stretch back out to a route. They haven't been as assertive with the horse in the route races earlier this year, and then catching the small field 2 back. So being a little bit more aggressive, sitting right off Behaving Myself, and if that horse does start to slow late, should be in the right spot to pick him up. I went in that direction. It'll be interesting how they bet the race. I mean, Pistol Box makes a lot of sense as an individual, but he's got to come running late. Just one of those horses, doesn't have a lot of early speed, but you know he's got that strong finishing ability.
And that's the thing about him. He always used to seem to kind of come up short, and then he started stringing together some victories, but he does need pace to run after. The thing is, maybe Chris Amy gets him into the race a little bit more early on. This is the 2nd start out of the year. That first start, 1, it was just so much tougher. I mean, Moment's been so good throughout the course of the year. And 2, early on the season was so much a speed favor in strips. So it's evened out a little bit. We'll see out of Pistol Box. But yeah, Behaving Myself should be the controlling speed, but like you mentioned, if you're controlling speed and you're pushed along, it still makes it a little bit tough to win on the front end. So see how things unfold in race number 2. 3rd race on the card, we go 3/4 of a mile. Maidens in here. This does start the pick 6 wager. It's interesting, trainer. Robert Pompel has 2 in here. He's got Bugsy's Wave Rider, who's a massive price, and Position Dumani, who's going to be a very short price. So let's work around those 2. I know you gave a look to both of those horses, so you can pick which one you want to start out between the 2.
Yeah, we'll start with the more obvious. I mean, Position Dumani has run some of the faster races and run competitive races at the level this season. It's just come up short in those 2 most recent starts. But the angle going back to that 2nd start of the season, back on April 6th, was that 2nd off. And that's been just such a strong angle for this barn, which gave me a look, or gave a look to number 5, Bugsy's Wave Rider, because it's a horse that's 2nd off. So it's the time for this barn where they tend to get their horses to run that big race. It's a bit of a stab on a horse that really isn't shown much slower than the other runners in this field, but I just had to give a mention just off that angle that has been effective for this barn. And outside of that, I mean, Position Dumani makes a lot of sense, maybe just catches the right field, and then Blaze Beauty being one of those other logical types. Pacific View is worth a mention because that was a winning type effort going back to May 11th, but now is going to be stepping up in class, had a little bit of trouble, not the most ideal ride, but is going to have that class test facing slightly tougher.
Yeah, and again, it does come down to value more than anything, and I don't know if we're going to get a whole lot of value. Blaze Beauty was the route I went, followed by Position Dumani. I like the notes you make on Bugsy's Wave Rider, because here's the thing. You talk about intent, and then you talk about just how you like a move out of trainer. Sometimes trainers put 2 in and then they scratch 1 because they want to get the race to go. Well, they put 2 in and this horse stays in, so there has to be some intent that, hey, we don't want to just come in to run 6th, because then you're only getting the starter bonus of $100. If you go in there and you're running 5th or higher, then you're getting a little bit better check. And when it's a 6-horse field, you must think that this horse is moving up a little bit. So let's see if the horse Bugsy's Wave Rider improves a little bit there in race number 3. In the fourth, we go 3/4 of a mile in this spot. $5,000 claimers in race number 4, field of 8 to line up in here. Again, a race you can go a whole lot of different ways. I know you looked to a couple of prices in the middle of the field there. I saw in your notes you gave a little bit of a mention to Born Again George and Mud Island as well, a couple of horses. Born Again George was a horse that didn't have a rider for too long in that last out either.
Yeah, and I didn't have much money after that race either because I liked Born Again George that day, lost the rider, and then went on to win the race riderless, which is even more kind of a dagger in the wallet, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, going to this race, I think it really starts around the 7, who I'm going to try to pronounce this, Calabrese?
I'm going to go with you on that.
Okay.
It's better than just calling it 7, but we can call it 7 if we want to.
We got that out of the way,
Yeah.
but it's a big class drop for this horse, which sometimes, the class drop, the connections are looking to place horses where they fit. But when a horse finishes second for $25,000 and then they come back real quick with that drop in class, it makes you a little bit it creates some caution in there.
Yeah.
So while this horse certainly is the horse to beat, has run some of the higher numbers, that class drop moves this horse up. If there are some reasons to have reservation, it does open up the race to a horse like Born Again George, especially off that running line. It should be a price and has some back numbers. Maybe some other prices in here, as you mentioned, Mud Island being one of those. Ran a good race last out, slightly higher, open 10,000 out at FanDuel. It has some back numbers, is running at the higher level at the allowance company. That would make them a bet, could just be in the right time and place. And same thing with Christmas Present, just trying to get back to their top form from last year, but also have them a player in here. DeFever, Tappet Sam, both coming off wins, but horses that are going to have to step up in class to this spot, slightly higher race par today.
Yeah, it is. The one thing I did like about DeFever is you do keep Mojica in the saddle, who rode the horse very well in that last out. When I was looking up and down the field, I didn't see a ton of pace in the race, so that was the reason I put DeFever on top. Not necessarily that the horse needs the lead to win, but shouldn't be too far out of it. But I thought the same way as you, and I'm just going to call him the 7. But because I didn't use the 7 on top here, and you have to try to figure out, again, trainer intent for a horse like this, because 2 starts back, the horse ran a good race at Oaklawn Park for 16. Was claimed out of that race, and the claim was voided. So that's the thing that maybe scares you off a little bit. But then you go up for 25, and you run a good race behind Latin Casino here at Hawthorne. Now you're dropping him for 5. So I guess you kind of have to go through just all the races. And the horse had a pretty good year last year, has won some money for the barn. So even if you get claimed and win here, you're out on the racehorse. But does it scare people off because there was a voided claim 2 starts back? Maybe. I still think somebody's going to go in for the horse, but
I think somebody will go in for the horse. And I mean, again, you look at this race and it's like this is the horse to beat, but it's going to be a short price based on those numbers. And if the horse isn't quite ready, or there's some reason why they did drop the horse in that we don't know about, could just create some opportunities for some others. I mean, this level can be a little bit unpredictable at times, so sometimes it is worth kind of getting a little bit creative.
And we got to bring this up, all right? In the age of the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, HISA, all right, if a horse does get claimed and the horse doesn't vet out, it goes back to the barn that it was claimed from. We've seen it happen in numerous tracks around the country. So here's the thing, if you run this horse for 5 and it does get claimed, say for whatever reason the claim gets voided, all of a sudden you got a horse that's starter eligible now for 2 years.
Yes,
so,
true.
Let's see how it plays out for this horse. See if anybody jumps in, see if anybody claims it, and then see where the horse shows up for that next start. Race number 5 today, we're going to scratch the 2, a Notary, scratch the 9, Blazing Road. We're back to the turf field of 8, goes 1 mile on the firm turf going. This is a good field here, Emily. Optional $40,000 company. You can look so many ways, and here you have horses coming out of the Hawthorne Derby. You have a graded stakes horse here from the barn of Tom Amos. Captivating Moon's been really good throughout the course of his career. But you went to a big price, right? Gray Streak, is that the horse that I saw for you?
Yeah, because as you mentioned, you have all those horses that are they're so obvious, and they're certainly likely in this race. And then a horse like Gray Streak, who's going to come back to the turf, come back off the layoff, and could be in the right spot. They have back numbers that fit on the turf. You mentioned the Hawthorne Derby. This horse ran second in the Hawthorne Derby back in 2021. So has that turf form. Since they claimed the horse going back for $20,000 in November, they really haven't had a chance to run on the turf just because of the winter season. Kept the horse protected up at Turfway Park, comes back with a freshening, gets back to the turf. So it could just be a time that this horse pops with a big price. And yeah, there
will
are
be a big price, yeah.
certain other ways to go. But if this horse does run big at a big price, this would be the time to have him, because if he
Right.
runs big at a big price and then comes up short, he's going to be a short price next time.
Right.
So try to get a little bit ahead of the curve on that, but recognize there's other horses in here that are certainly, more logical types, especially for their connections.
And they have the ability to go in here for the tag because they claim the horse for 10. If somebody takes it for 40, fine. They're doing just fine on the horse. But what it does, it keeps your condition. If you do run well at this level, then next time out you can be protected and not run for the tag as well, too, if you do happen to run big and win. So we'll see what we get there. The fact that the 7 Dowagiac Chief is not in for the tag kind of goes to trainer intent as well. Tom Amos thinks enough of this horse to send it from Kentucky here to Hawthorne for this spot. And you only do that if you think you're going to win. So that's the reason I went to this one. Should show speed. Ian Glass along the inside is a horse that has some speed as well. The pace may be hot up front. The turf course is very firm. We did get a good amount of rain Friday morning, but the turf is very firm. We're going to water it heavily tomorrow before Thursday's race. It's just because it needs it. It's been very dry outside. So it played kind of front end over the course of the races on Thursday. Let's see how it plays today, but that's the reason I went to the 7.
I have no issue with that horse. I think it fits. Second off, stretching out.
But not going to be any value. Not going to be a whole
Probably
lot of
going to be
price.
short,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, race number 6 today, the last of our pick 3s here. Scratch the 10, Normandy Angel. That horse was re-entered, so you have a field of 10. 62.50 maidens in this spot. You and I thought the same way. Let's try to beat Stan the cameraman. The horses run decent races, but probably a short price, and we both ended up on the same one. Devilish Hour from the barn of Hugh Robertson. Those races at Oaklawn Park, I think even for the Arkansas bred race, it's just tougher than what they're seeing today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as Stan the cameraman, I guess we'll kind of back up and start there. Because it's a horse that does look like they should be controlling speed and have shown that early speed. But I remember we talked about this last time, that he'd been running those big races and coming back on short rest. And it kind of seemed like if he didn't get it done in that most recent start back on May 4th, could be a little bit concerned that this horse is just starting to get a little bit tired. So that was my one knock on him. Granted, I respect that early speed. It could just be timing. And as far as Devilish Hour, is facing much tougher. Had some trouble at the start. Looked like a prep for him in that most recent start. Running for 20,000 at Oaklawn Park certainly makes sense. And I also upgraded number 11 Pro Charger, also coming out of the Oaklawn Park meet. A horse that maybe doesn't look so appealing on paper, but to their credit, they have improved race to race, and that's been a strong angle. We got a 14-1 Manny Perez winner. What was that, early last week? The 4-horse. I wish I could remember names, but I know it was a 4-horse. That popped up in a similar maiden condition, was just showing progression race to race, and caught the right group, and that's kind of where I see Pro Charger in here today.
You saw improved speed in that last out as well, and they thought enough of this horse. I mean, you debuted on the turf against Maiden Allowance Company, and then even you went to Oaklawn, it was 75, 50, 20. I mean, they were running against legitimate race horses there. Maybe the horse is just starting to figure things out, and I still think you get a decent price on that one as well. I am with you. Devilish Hour on top there in the 6th. All right, in the 7th, the Third Chance Stakes. We go 3/4 of a mile. Scratch to 3 per C, which is actually a pretty big scratch in this race, because you lose some of the pace of the race. You still have Isabella Candidella, Cat Attack, both who can show some speed. But sometimes the favorite is just the horse that you have to stick with. And this favorite is very, very good. And it doesn't matter what surface it seems. Turf, dirt, synthetic, whatever. Orlando Mojica aboard for Mickey Goldfine here. And this horse has run good against Open Company and gets state spreads today.
Yeah, overall, I've been trying to practice this name. I've been listening to it online and everything. It's still a tough one. I realize it's like the end part of hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Entry.
Yep.
But yeah, she's so solid. I mean, just number-wise, as you mentioned, the versatility. And even though she came up short in those 2 most recent starts out in Kentucky, she was still holding her own. As far as her speed figures, there was no regression on that part. It was just a matter of catching some horses that were just a little bit better on the day. So carrying her form, holding those speed figures, stands out in this field, especially as her biggest threat, probably Scratched in Percy.
I would think so. I mean, if you're going to single in a sequence, this is probably your single. That's the route that I went as well. Just so talented here. Mojica's been riding very well in the meet. The horse loves the racetrack, so I'm with you on the 5. Au revoir in the Third Chance Stakes. Final race on the card. Maiden Allowance Company goes 1 mile on the firm turf course. Jackpot High Five carryover 60,252. As of right now, only the 12 and 13 are scratched. The 11 and 14 were waiting. They can wait up till Lasix time to see if anybody's going to come out. So they might have scratched her recently. But you get the field of 10 in the last. With maidens, anything can happen. Maidens on the turf, where not a whole lot of them have run on the grass, anything can happen too. You and I both have a horse in the mix in the 7, 3 Rough Shots. I picked the 2nd. I know you talked about this horse a little bit too. The breeding definitely suggests turf, and this is a barn that always seems to have pretty good meets here. So why don't we start with 3 rough shots?
Yeah, I thought this horse is, from a visual standpoint, looks every bit of a turf horse.
Yeah.
Going back to that debut, had legitimate trouble at the start. Probably wasn't the most ideal surface. They're going to come back here in 17 days, getting to the turf, which is probably where this horse belongs, and looks just to be in the right spot. Showed some run despite that running line and finishing position. And again, just intent coming into this race. It does look like those horses are scratched because I'm looking at optics, which
They are
updates
out.
quick.
Yep.
And
Okay.
yeah, they're out of the race. So it's the field of 10, also eligibles are out.
And then that makes sense. I mean, and it does make sense for them to wait if they want to run to get in. You go all the way up to Lasix
Yeah.
time. It doesn't cost you anything, and then you come back around. Yeah, I'm with you. That horse should be in the mix. Out of deductions, the other Mickey Goldfine trainee who's already run on the turf. This is a horse that we saw run at Tampa and run a decent race after getting away slowly. And now you come over here to Hawthorne today. Probably fits as well. We'll see what we get for a price. Emily, I didn't know what to make of the 10. I ended up picking the 10, Mo Time at all, but it's such a reluctant selection because this is a 6-year-old that just got started, but then ran okay in those first couple of starts in New Orleans at the fairgrounds, and then you try to race at Keeneland in that last out. The Burnt Barn is going to give this horse a shot here. I think this is easier company, but you know there are issues getting to the racetrack for a horse just starting at 6.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, the horses run some good races. My one knock is
Yeah.
it on that horse with some of the others in the field. There's just not much upside for a 6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So what you see is what you're going to get with a horse like 3 rough shots or even out of deductions. They're horses that are lightly
Right.
raced. They're on the younger side. They have that ability to improve. Where Mo Time at all, we've seen his best. So it could take one of those that can just step up and have the ability to do so.
Yeah, Aquacat, a horse that could be a factor in there in the last as well and should take some action. All right, that's how Emily and I see the 8 races on the Sunday card. We're going to flip the programs back to the opener now because we're 13 minutes to post for the first. Horses are in the paddock here at Hawthorne. Go a mile and a 16th on the turf. $10,000 claimers in a race number 1 today. Emily, again, 12% takeout on win, place, show wagers. 50-cent pick 5 kicks off in the first. Looking at the board right now,
Wide
Emily.
open board.
Yeah, Sierra Hotel and I Owe You Again. And I Owe You Again as an old hard-trying turf veteran. They're your favorites right now in the opener. But let's start with you, the horse that you picked here, the 7 at 6-1. That's Dyna Blue. Orlando Mojica aboard for trainer D. Polis. So go through again what you saw with the 7 horse, Dyna Blue, in race number 1.
Yeah, it was a matter of just getting this horse back to the turf, which is the preferred surface and the benefit of the recency with those races on the dirt. So this would be their chance to take advantage of the fitness, of the timing, getting back to the turf. We can see him on the screen right now as he's walking over to the paddock area. Again, it was just kind of one of those timing things that it seems like they've been waiting for the turf, keeping this horse fit, getting back to that preferred surface. Where some others in here, Sierra Hotel, Maligator. Maligator I gave a look to, and Sierra Hotel would be no surprise, but they're horses that are coming off layoffs. So just looking at, again, that recency coming back in 28 days.
Yeah, and it is a great betting board for the opener. You can go so many different ways in here. The horse I put on top is the 4. That's Bacaneko. This one currently at 8-1 right now. Comes from the barn of trainer Hugo Rodriguez. Olaf Hernandez in the saddle. We did mention how Olaf rode the horse for Manny Modifier really well on the grass on Thursday's card, and you see the gray 7-year-old gelding walking over right there. This is a horse that's had 4 starts on the grass, a victory and a couple of runner-up efforts, a little bit of tactical speed. I think you have to be relatively close just based on how the turf course played on Thursday and the fact that it's going to be a very firm turf course. So we'll see what Bacaneko shows for us, but at 8-1, a little bit of value in there as well.
Yeah,
Now,
I think that horse definitely makes sense and could be kind of similar to Dyna Blue in the sense that they've been just kind of waiting, keeping the horse protected on the dirt, running back on the turf, and as you mentioned, yes, has that early speed, can often be a little bit rank, so they probably are going to try to be aggressive and avoid that issue.
You'd have to think so. All right, let's touch on the favorite, the 1 in here.
Sure.
That's Sierra Hotel. Chris Amy aboard this runner today for trainer Eduardo Rodriguez. 32 starts on the grass, 20 of 32 on the board for Sierra Hotel. And Emily, it doesn't seem like the distance matters, the track surface matters, anything. Sierra Hotel always seems to try hard, but typically going a little bit longer, probably wants to get into the race a little bit more early on.
Yeah, my concern with this horse is obviously he has that form and he has the races that fit, that make the horse a player. But since he's been claimed by Rodriguez, he hasn't quite been to that form, at least in those races out at the fairgrounds. Maybe the reset, getting back on the circuit, getting back on the turf. But it was just one of those that as far as the timing, returning from that 77-day layoff with that current form where there really wasn't much excuse out at the fairgrounds trip-wise for those efforts, I just was like, maybe I want to see one at a short price that would certainly not surprise, but should be the favorite. I mean, going back to the races here, certainly fits, looks good, looks like a good horse coming, fitness-wise coming off the layoff. But that was just my concern as far as being a short price, especially when there's alternatives.
Yeah, let's take a look at the 6th horse. That's Maligator. Maligator's a horse that's kind of intriguing in here for the fact that, one, it's taken some action, bet down to 6-1 on the board right now. But Maligator is a horse that's been away since last September, but has had some past races on the grass that have been pretty good, has been pretty popular at the claim box too. What do you make of Maligator today?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing where he has races that make him competitive, and even races at this level and over this turf course. He ran a good second here. I guess there's kind of two knocks, right? With the layoff, coming back off the layoff, giving up some recency. Also a horse that doesn't typically break very well.
Yeah.
So you have those kind of gait issues. He's got to make that run from off the pace, but he does have a strong late kick. So if the pace does develop in front of him and he's back to top form, would not be any surprise at all.
All right, and lastly, we have to mention your long shot play in here. That's the 2, Bourbon Delight. Bourbon Delight's 19-1 on the board right now. Emmanuel Giles aboard this runner today for Isidro Castro. The horse ran a really nice race in that last out. Yes, it was much easier company. You thought this one had the potential possibly to do something on the turf course, right?
Yeah, it's actually funny because these notes go back all the way back to this horse in 2021 when he was running at Oaklawn Park where there's no turf course, and I thought, this horse looks like a turf horse. He should get on the turf. There's been a couple times that they've tried to run on the turf, haven't been able to get into those races, so there's been some intent. And then again, the current form, as you mentioned, ran a very good race last out, so that does concern me. Maybe there is some regression in there considering that every other pattern, but those numbers, the 83 optics figure from the win back on April 20th, as well as the optics figure of another 83 back on March 12th, those stack right up on par and stack right up with the other ones in the field. So if he's able to hold that form, transfer the form in the turf, isn't far off some of these others, and I just figured was going to be that big price because of the lack of turf experience. But again, based on the visuals, I think he's got every chance to move up and handle this grass.
Yeah, and it looks like as much as we were going to try to get this race off a few minutes early, just to kind of fall in line with everybody else, it's not going to happen because that horse just walked into the paddock. So see how things unfold. But for me in the opener, Emily, I'm going to look on top and here to the 4 back in Naco. You're going to work around the 7 horse Dyna Blue and see if you could get some value, right?
Yeah, it looks like a good race to get some value, and we'll see. What do you think? We have 5 minutes out, 6 minutes out, maybe
we
a little
got
more?
a few minutes out here. I got time to run upstairs. We'll give Peter a little bit of time to run through changes for the first 5 races. Good luck.
Racing fans, looking ahead to the 8th race. In the 8th race, now take out all the also eligibles. All the also eligibles in the 8th race have been scratched now. 8th race, scratch 1, 11, Cool and Collected. Scratch 11, Cool and Collected. Scratch 12, Poncho Attack. Scratch 13, Sharp as Nails. Scratch 14, Money Agent. 11, 12, 13, 14 now all out of the 8th. Those of you just arriving, post time for the first race in 7 minutes. Here are the changes in your pick 5 races. Turf is firm, rail set at 20 feet out. Track is fast. First race starts. The rolling doubles, rolling pick 3s, and the 50-cent pick 5. In the first race, scratch 11, Mr. Charming. Scratch 12, Fly Nightly. Scratch 13, Go for Sherry. Scratch 14, Big Blue. First race, scratch all the also eligibles, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Second race starts at 50-cent early pick 4, no changes. Third race starts at 50-cent pick 6, no changes. Pick 6, one of 2 carryover pools. Pick 6 carryover, $1,167. Fourth race, no changes. Fifth race, turf firm, rail set at 20 feet out. It starts elite pick 4, scratch 2, notary, scratch 9, Blazin' Road. Fifth race, scratch 2, notary, scratch 9, Blazin' Road. Those are the changes in your pick 5 races. Once again, the turf is firm, rail set at 20 feet out. The dirt track is listed as fast. We are just 6 minutes away from the first at Hawthorne. We do urge you to make your selections early. Avoid being shut out. Coming on the track for the Sunday opener, they'll go a mile and 1/16 on a turf course listed as firm with the rail set at 20 feet out. Scratch 11, Mr. Charming. Scratch 12, Flying Nightly. Scratch 13, Go for Sherry. Scratch 14, Big Blue. Field of 10, no jockey changes, no overweights. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta. It starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick threes, and the 50-cent pick five. Parading here they are. 1, Sierra Hotel, Chris Amy riding. Number 2 is Bourbon Delight with Emmanuel Giles in the saddle. 3, Move On Over, Victor Santiago. Number 4 is Bacanico, Ola Fernandez. 5, Ioya again, Javier Tavares. 6, Maligator, Diego Sanchez riding. 7, Dyna Blue will be handled by Orlando Mojica. Number 8 is Dramatic Kitten, Abel Lescano riding. 9, Vital, Alexis Centeno. And number 10, Where'd the Day Go, Julio Felix. 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all scratched. We're on the turf in 3 minutes for the first at Hawthorne Turf Firm, rail set at 20 feet out. Racing fans, little time remains for you to wager on today's first race here at Hawthorne, which features rolling doubles, rolling pick threes, and the 50-cent pick five. Turf is firm, rail set at 20 feet out for the opener. Dirt track is fast. Those conditions will remain the same all day long today here at the track. 2 carryover pools. Third race starts at pick 6. That carryover, $1,167. The 8th race, jackpot high 5 carryover, $60,252. To thank you for joining us wherever it may be across the betting network. And now they are at the starting gate for the first at Hawthorne. Our first turf race of the day, turf firm rail set at 20 feet out. Horses are entering the starting gate. Two more left to go in, waiting for Ionia again, and where'd the day go? Waiting now for where'd the day go? Now they're all in the gate. They're off. Towards the inside, Sierra Hotel. Now moving up, here's Bourbon Delight. From the outside, Dyna Blue. Still further out, Vitel and Where'd the Day Go? As they pass the stands and go to the finish wire for the first time, Bourbon Delight on a short lead. Right there in between horses, move on over. Vitel is 3 deep, 4 wide. Where'd the Day Go? And on the inside, Sierra Hotel is next. Moving through is Bacanico. Then a 2-length gap to Alligator. 5 more back to move on over, followed up by Dramatic Kitten, and trailing the field, Ionia again. As they begin their journey on the backstretch, on the inside, Bourbon Delight, on the outside, Vitel, locked in a head-and-head duel. Towards the inside, Sierra Hotel, Dyna Blue is back to 4th, and now back to 5th as Where'd the Day Go gains ground on the outside. In between horses, Bacanico, then on the outside, Alligator, move on over, has no place to go. Then on the inside, Dramatic Kitten, trailing Ionia again. That one's about 15 lengths behind the leader as they move around the far turn. And your new leader now is Vitel. Less than 3 furlongs to go. Vitel a length and a half. Sierra Hotel gains ground second. Here's Dyna Blue moving back into third. Where'd the Day Go? Fourth, looking for racing room. Bacanico, Alligator moves to the outside. Around the turn, they're in the stretch. It's Sierra Hotel up to take the lead. Vitel racing second. Dyna Blue needs to do a bit more. Towards the inside, Bacanico coming on. Less than a furlong to go. It's Sierra Hotel, the leader. On the inside, Vitel. Bacanico, no place to go. And then on the outside, Dyna Blue. And they're all chasing Sierra Hotel to the wire. Sierra Hotel won by 2.5. Tight for second between Vitel and Dyna Blue. It's also tight for 4th. In today's first race, 1 Sierra Hotel finished first, 9 Vitel was second, 7 Dyna Blue finished third, 5 Ionia again fourth. 1975 is posted, it's unofficial. 142.43 for the 1 mile and 1/16th on a firm turf course. Returning as the official winner, 1 Sierra Hotel. Sierra Hotel owned by David Dory, trained by Eduardo Rodriguez, ridden to victory by Chris Amy. First race official running time 142.43, prices in a moment.